Last week's case file about the magical lane to Hollywood has caused me to reflect on my own history with Ripon. I started my years of school in Miss Prisky's first grade class at Ceresco Elementary. The library in the corner of her classroom is where I happened to find my first magic book. I had checked it out and probably never returned it, which eventually led to my lifelong study and connection to the magical arts, as well as blocking anyone else in the school from learning my secrets. Magic eventually became my profession. After practicing endless hours in front of the mirror, perfecting my first feats of amazement, I was ready to perform. I left for school one day, pockets lined with the secret something needed to make the magic happen, and nervously I approached Miss Prisky in desperate need of an audience, requesting to perform my magic trick for the entire class. She quickly agreed, providing that we had time at the end of the day, and moments before the bell rang, Miss Prisky got the classroom's attention, called me up to the front, introducing me to my peers as a magician. "I need a volunteer, please," my voice squeaked, and Mrs. Prisky quickly replied, "I'll do it." The trick actually involved two sponge rabbits that I asked her to hold tightly in her hand. I made some magical gestures while saying the magic words, "They make babies!" And as Miss Prisky opened her hand, tons of little white rabbits popped out and were falling to the floor. The classroom laughed and Miss Prisky gasped, right as the school bell rang. My classmates began clapping but darting for the door. As I was collecting my props, Miss Prisky told me to have a seat and wait for her by her desk. After she had observed the students making the way to the buses, and after all the halls had cleared, she came back into her classroom, not saying a word. She pulled up her chair, removed her glasses, looked down at me, and in a very stern voice said, "Now you tell me right now how you did that." From that day on, the magic bug had bitten. I began checking out all the library books I could find, recruiting my assistant friends, and performing magic shows for all types of events. I made things levitate, tore up newspapers, and even put them back together again, escaped from fiery coffins, and by the time I was 16, had made a fire truck disappear. Largely influenced by my childhood hero David Copperfield, as I matured, I began to think like a magician. I see things in a different way, a way most people, quite honestly, are not able to see. I've spent my life mastering the principles of deception and have become an expert on secrets. One thing I learned very early on is that highly intelligent and educated people are often the easiest people in the world to fool. It's much easier for me to perform magic on a college professor or someone with a PhD than a 4-year-old child. When researching these topics of the Ripon rabbit hole, I inevitably see things in a different light, spotting clues or connecting obscure dots that have been overlooked for generations, unearthing some remarkable stories that even the very best historians have missed. It's said a good magician never reveals his secrets. My oath to the Brotherhood and the code of ethics we're expected to follow is the reason why Mrs. Prisky never learned the actual secret of those multiplying rabbits. But I'm not the only one to come from Ripon with tricks up my sleeve. We spoke in previous episodes that Warren Chase began studying magnetism and the works, ideas, and practices of Franz Anton Mesmer, or mesmerism as it was called prior to hypnosis, the power of suggestion. Along with clairvoyance, psychic abilities, and mediumship, or the communication with the dead, frequent subjects studied by Chase that today are found within the art of magic as effect classifications. In contrast, it's important to understand that magicians, while performing, are expected to uphold the following. Indeed, magicians, if they are strictly ethical, are morally under obligation to insist that their methods are purely natural. To break that down, essentially, there's no such thing as real magic.
Now concentrate towards me.
To achieve the results of these effects, magicians will always rely on the unknown use of misdirection, the power of suggestion, or a downright secret device used to accomplish the illusion. When psychics or mediums use these same techniques in demonstration, they accomplish the same illusions without the same natural claims. The effect often becomes very personal and very spiritual, with the audience unaware of the deception. Mesmer had spread to the United States by the 1840s. Mesmer proposed that everything in the universe, including the human body, was governed by a magnetic fluid that could become imbalanced, causing illness. By waving his hands over a patient's body and saying some magic words, he induced a mesmerized, hypnotic state that allowed him to manipulate the magnetic forces and restore the health. Amateur mesmerists became a popular attraction at parties and in parlors, a limited few like Warren Chase proving skillful enough to attract paying customers. After the dissolution of the Phalanx and leaving Ceresco, Warren took his show on the road, spending the rest of his life not just as a spiritualist, but one of the day's leading spiritualists, traveling the nation as an authority, providing a range of demonstrations, lectures, and literature, along with working closely, often traveling amongst leading spiritualists and psychic mediums of the world. This role allowed Warren to often obtain and transport sensitive information during a time when sensitive information was very important, dually touring his way through a variety of secret societies and organizations like the Knights of the Golden Circle and the infamous Skull and Bones, or its second chapter and even more secretive, Skull and Swords. Even the network of the Underground Railroad itself relied heavily on the transfer of sensitive information and the preservation of its society's secrets. Groups that at one time or another all fell through the Ripon rabbit hole. Funny how today, as a professional magician with over 35 years of experience, these secrets of history I'm finding, like the rabbits in Mrs. Prisky's hand, just keep multiplying. Join us again next week for another journey into the rabbit hole. To learn more, visit riponrabbithole.com and be sure to subscribe for additional case files.